Hey, what's up and welcome back, y'all. So today we're going to talk about metrics and how you can put all the stats within your organization within one table simply and clearly. Check this out. All right, y'all, so check this out. So we have an employees table that we're bringing in all these different types of training values in. And what we developed is by company, by how many personnel are within the company, and then the training of how many are expired, and then how many are overdue past the 365-day marker because you're supposed to do the training every year. And then we just did that for every single training that you have. So I'm going to show you step by step on how you can build this out for yourself. And then in a follow-on video, we're actually going to build out the conditional formatting that you see here as well. And then also utilizing that top-end DAX function and the filter and kind of what they mean. Now, just to give you some insight on what my table looks like, I have the company, employee names, gender, title, all these things, and then the training date values as well. Now, your table might be a little bit different. You might have to bring in and merge different tables together, but this one has one table with all the data consolidated into one. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this example that I have, and then we're just going to start from scratch, right? So first, we wanted how many people we have within the organization. So we're going to build out that DAX expression first. And that's going to be my base value because that's going to account for how many people are expired out of that total population. All right, so I'm going to simply create my first measure. And we're going to put total personnel equals, and we're just going to coalesce first. There's a count rows, and I just want to count how many rows of people there are within the table of employees. We're going to close that up. And now I'm going to say 0 for the coalesce. And this is going to return a 0 if a certain condition isn't met if I'm filtering appropriately, just as a safety, right? But the main expression I'm looking for here is how many total personnel are within this table, which is going to be 1,000. So we're just going to run that. And then just to validate, as we should, as always, so I'm just going to throw a card over here. I'm going to put my expression in there. And I'm always going to use my 1,000 separator as well. And there we go. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is going to identify a certain type of training and how many are expired and past that 365-day marker. So we're going to count those first, just for one specific training. So I'm going to say awareness training greater than 365 equals, we're going to do coalesce again. We're going to do calculate, then count rows, employees table, because that's the table reference we're going to have. We're going to close that table. We're going to go employees again, and then it's going to ask us for the exact column that we want to reference. So we're going to reference the table awareness, and then how much are less than today minus 365. We're going to close up the calculate. We're going to close up the coalesce. And now this is our final expression. So just to work from the inside out is usually how I like to run a DAX analysis. Is the first thing I'm looking at here is going to be the count row. So it's going to be counting how many employees I have within the table, which is 1,000 that we know. We just ran that other expression, right? The next thing we're doing is we're going to use a calculate. So the calculate is wrapped around the count rows. So the calculate is now saying, okay, within the count rows, how many within the awareness column, since everybody has a date tied to that, are less than today minus 365 days. I was asking for how many values are present that are older than 365 days. And actually, if you want to be even more precise, you can do less than or equals to 365 days. So technically it's expired today, right? If it occurred, let's just say a year ago prior to today. Outside of the calculated expression, we have coalesce. So if we drill down, we filter down on the front end, and it does not meet a certain condition, meaning this exact condition, then we return a 0. So we're going to run that, and we're actually going to copy this because this is going to help us with all the other expressions that we're going to run to for all the different training types. So we have 4 more training types. So I'm just going to copy this, and I'm going to do the same exact thing for the other ones. All I'm going to do is simply change the reference column that I have here highlighted. But then just to confirm, I'm going to throw this DAX in there as well. I'll put a comma just in case I had more data than 1,000, for instance. Within yours, you may have it. Or if the data grows over time, I always have that formatted, right? So right now I have 531. We know we said less than or equals to today. So I'm going to go back to my table, to my employees table. I'm going to look at awareness now. I'm going to do a date filter. I'm going to do before. All right, so as we filter on this table, what we're going to see now is our date options. So we want to say is on or before 29 June, which is today, but we're going to say 2024, right? Because we're looking a year back. And we're just going to press OK. And it's going to filter down appropriately. Now, if you can see here on the bottom left, we have a total of 531 rows. All right, so that's how you want to validate everything that you're doing. So what I'm going to do is now is I'm just going to run this for all the other trainings that I have, and then we'll proceed with the calculations for the divide DAX that we're going to run for the percentages. All right, so once we have all that down, we're going to go ahead and create a table, and we're just going to kind of blow this up a little bit. I'm going to extend this out all the way. We're going to bring in our company. So we want to bring in the employees, and we're going to select the company here. So we have company A to E, and then from left to right, we're going to bring in our measures. So we want total personnel, so how many total personnel we have. We're just going to kind of bring them in order now. And as you can see, we have all our different trainings here and how many are actually expired and over the 365-day band. Now, the next thing we want to do is now look at the percentages of how many are actually expired. So numbers don't always help paint a good picture. We sometimes want to see percentages too. So percentages provide a different layer of visibility analysis and easier to really digest information rather than looking at total population, especially if the population is rather large. So we're going to call this awareness training expired equals, we're going to say divide, and this is going to ask us for our numerator. So what's our top number amount? So we have the whole number amount that we just calculated based upon the awareness category. So we're just going to put awareness, then it's going to ask us for the denominator. So what's the bottom value, which is going to be our total personnel. And then what's our alternate result? So our alternate result is going to be a 0, because if we don't meet the intent of what we're trying to accomplish here based upon the divide expression, we always want to return a number still, and that number is going to be 0. Now what we want to do is then click on the expression again and then change it to a percentage. And this will change the format type to a percentage, and then you could change the numerical values of how many are going to be after the decimal. I usually put none just because we can round up. And then now we can insert that awareness training expiration number right after or before our training total. And now we have 56%. So 112 of 199 is going to be 56% of that company. Now we're just going to rinse and repeat this entire process for all the other categories as well. All right, so once that's done, all you have to do is just plug in the types of training that you brought in. And then it might help a little bit just to change the naming convention. Now, I usually don't change the naming convention within the DAX expression simply because I like to keep it long. It's descriptive. It helps me identify without going into the DAX itself on what it exactly is and what purpose it serves. So what I do is I superficially change it here. So I just go into the column name, and for instance, for awareness expired, I'll just do this simply, and that gives me some space. It buys me some space so that I know now that I can go in and change the next one as well. And I actually just want to change it to expired percentage because I know that's what it exactly is. And then the next one, I can just take off the percentage amount because that's going to be the total of how many I have. And I'll probably repeat this for the entire thing just so I have more space, more width to work with. So in case I want to increase the font or anything like that, it allows me greater flexibility. And now to couple with this, all you have to do is just bring in a couple additional slicers that we have built already here. And if we want to look at certain titles such as analyst, we have all that flexibility, or coordinators, managers, whatever it may be for certain ranks. And then we could see how that 0% value within the divide function or that COALESCE is working within these expressions here as well. All right, with that said, that's all I have for this video, folks. Stay tuned for the next 2 videos. We're going to have conditional formatting in this table that we just built, and then the top end DAX function, and then using it as a filter on the canvas as well. Stay tuned.